we are. It's January of 2026. It's mid-January already, January 18th, when I'm filming this. And I thought, so I don't really do New Year's resolutions just because I don't think I have to wait till January to make changes as I desire. And so one of the decisions that I made weeks ago was to get back into reading. Reading is something that I've always enjoyed doing. It's very relaxing for me, and so I decided to try before bed reading something, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. It's just helping me to calm down and get back into the mode of being ready to go to sleep. And so some time ago, I had gotten a bunch of books from a thrift store for quite an affordable price. In this case, it was 59 cents. And so I decided, I better start going through those books, and I'll read through them and then either decide they're good enough to keep and make it a permanent part of my library or give them away. So the one that I chose is, it's called The People of the Book. And it's a book about a book and the people related to that book. Oops. Very meta, very intellectual. When I saw this, I actually, based on the art of the cover, so I always forget that it's moving, it's flipped 180 degrees, like mirrored, whatever. So when I'm moving around, I'm a little confused by that. Anyway, also I just noticed there's cornflakes behind me. This is not sponsored at all. I wish I was sponsored by Kellogg's. But anyway, one of the kids just left that there, so I'll put it away when I'm done talking. Anyway, but yeah, it's very beautifully illustrated cover. It looked a little bit like it could be a young adult book, but it really is not. And so I completed this in less than a week. It's quite easy reading, but it's not really kid-friendly subject matter. It's the topic of this. The book in question is a Haggadah, which is a sacred Hebrew text, specifically one that's used as a guide to the Passover Seder. And often these date back to medieval times, and they would be often privately owned and kept within a family to use to celebrate their Passover. And this is, the story is fictional for the most part, but it's based on a real document, a real text from Sarajevo, and it was called the Sarajevo Haggadah. I guess they didn't decide to have a creative name in that. But anyway, there's a real life document, and it really was found in the 1990s in Sarajevo. And the writer Geraldine Brooks kind of put together a story on what plausibly could have happened from the beginning of the creation of the document up through the centuries to when it was discovered in the late 20th century. And so it starts with the people that did the illustration. It's worth noting, it's a point that's often brought up in the book. For the most part, due to Jewish restrictions on presentations of images based on the commandments to not make any graven images, most scriptures in Hebrew scriptures were not illustrated in the same manner that Christian manuscripts of the time were. But apparently there were some that were, and the real life Sarajevo Haggadah was very beautifully illustrated. And so that's what made it so remarkable and valuable in terms of being a historical document as well as a religious text. Anyway, so in the narrative that's created, the people, all the characters are inventions of the writer, even though there was a real document that it's based on. It takes place from the 15th through the 21st centuries, and it hops around in no like chronological order, and it's like no real, to me, discernible order. It just hops from centuries back and forth from person to person. And some of the characters are only seen in one chapter. Their perspective is given only in one chapter. And some of the characters come up multiple times, and we're seeing their perspective. We see their perspective from their point of view in more than one chapter. The main character is a scholar, a book conservationist by the name of Hannah Heath, and it talks about her personal life as well as her professional involvement in this particular text. I would say I did not enjoy this book. It was, for the most part, just horrible and depressing, and it felt like a work of discipline to complete it, to will myself to sit through it, to see that there would be a reward at the end. And I think in the end, I'm glad that I finished reading it. There was a rewarding experience, but there was just a lot of pain and sorrow that was represented throughout the book, reasonably so, because it started in 15th century Spain, and from the perspective of a slave girl, and continued through the eyes of a Jewish family that were exiled from Spain under Ferdinand and Isabella, and then continued, through the persecution of Jews all the way up through the 20th century. And so just every chapter, I was like, oh, great, here's some more suffering and persecution. Yay. But it's important to remember things like that really did happen. And at the same time, throughout the persecution and the horrible things that happened, you also see glimpses of humanity. And the interesting thing to me was that people who hated the Jews and were seeking to destroy them often were still seeking to get this Haggadah, this document, and hold on to it, maybe because of its value as a historical document, maybe because it's a beautiful piece of art. And so the Nazis were trying to find this and capture it, and it was kept safe by a Muslim person who was a librarian at the National Library in the 1940s. It was just a very interesting way to present both the negative side of the Jewish experience, particularly around the Mediterranean in Europe, as well as the positive side, that there were people who behaved with great kindness at their own personal risk. And there were glimpses of humanity. And it was a reminder that it's humanity that brings us together, because even if there's hatred, anger, and fighting, we're all drawn together and bound together by our common humanity. And I find it really interesting that, like all great literature, I wouldn't say this is great literature, but I would say it reflects a lot of aspects of great literature, which is that it explores the human condition and the state of the human soul, and the amount of anguish and grief as well as joy that people can reach just as part of being human is something that I think is often an important part of literature. So I finished this book, checking it off my list. This is the first book that I completed in 2026, and I will be passing this along. It's not going to stay in my library. And I told my mom about it, and I was telling her, like, oh, I've been reading this book. It's so horrible. Ugh, I really don't like it, and it's so depressing. Hey, do you want to read it when I'm done? But she really did understand what I was saying, which is that I knew that even though there were difficult subjects and it might be sad and difficult to read some of the things that were depicted in this book, that she would also resonate with the parts of humanity that were presented. And then when she finishes it, she can keep it or pass it along or whatever she prefers. But anyway, yeah. I haven't worked out a book rating system yet. What I like on a 5-star rating, I mean, I give this like 3 stars, I guess, because it's not terrible. It's decently written, and on a scale of on a scale of Wuthering Heights or Anna Karenina to the Divine Comedy, it's like mid. It's mid. That's me bagging on Wuthering Heights and Anna Karenina. But I know they have their admirers. I just don't happen to appreciate them. Anyway, like I said, I don't have a really well worked out rating system, but I can't give this 1 or even 2 stars. It's not awful, but it's like 2.5 to 3. It's mid. That's my rating. Anyway, so there you go. There's the bookworm presentation for the first month of 2026.